Hello, my friends. I'm Paul Polanco. I'm a mind body guide, and welcome to my channel. And I call myself a mind body guide because I've been on this healing journey for about 20 years. And along the way, I've learned a lot. And I made a promise to myself that if I ever got better, that I would share what I've known with the world. And YouTube is a great place to do that. It's the second most use search engine, so to speak. And so it's pretty big. And my videos will stay here basically forever unless I decide to delete them or YouTube decides to delete them. So I'm here today because there's been something on my mind for a very long time. And one of the things that I do is I help support people and help them navigate through a lot of the information that's out there. That's why I like to call myself a guide as opposed to a coach. I mean, I do coaching, but I really like to refer to myself as a guide these days because there's so much information out there. There is this myth out there in the brain rewiring community, also known as brain retraining. And if you don't know what brain retraining is or anything like that, then this video is not for you. This is for people that utilize programs like DNRS, Primal Trust. Primal Trust has brain retraining in it, but it's not the only thing it has. ANS Rewire, Gupta, Vital Side, just to name a few. There's many more out there like that. And so there is this belief amongst a small percentage of people out there that in order to really get the most out of your brain retraining, you have to do an hour of visualizations every day. And I remember having a client come to me and she was just telling me that, hey, I just had an appointment with another coach a few days ago, and it's really been bothering me because this coach told me that you will never heal if you don't do at least an hour a day of visualizations. And so I told her, well, that's really unfortunate. I'm sure it was a very well intentioned advice, but he's wrong. That's just not, this is not how the brain works. And let me explain. So, visualizations are it's a very powerful tool, but it's not the only tool. I know plenty of people who have healed, have recovered without doing a single visualization. In fact, there are clients of mine who I've really recommended don't you don't need to do visualizations because sometimes what happens, the brain is just not ready for that. And some people are not ready to deal with the pushback they might get from doing something as powerful as utilizing visualizations. Because if you're doing a visualization for a certain amount of time, let's just say 10 minutes as a kind of an arbitrary figure, but let's say you're doing a visualization for 10 minutes, and for those 10 minutes, you're able to hold and sustain the visualization, whether it's in the past, present, future, or in some fantasy world, it doesn't matter. But for those 10 minutes, if you're able to change your focus and really focus on whatever you're visualizing, and you're able to change your state, and by some people might say get into an elevated state, get into dose chemistry. And dose chemistry is an acronym that stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So dose chemistry. And so some people really believe, you know, these very well-intentioned coaches that say, you will not heal if you don't do an hour of visualizations a day. Some programs call them rounds, some call them adventures, whatever you want to call it. Ultimately, it's visualizations. This is just not true. Again, there are people who have healed without doing a single visualization. So, if a visualization, you change your focus, you're trying to change your state. And if you don't change your state, that's okay. Sometimes the brain, the limbic system of the brain and the nervous system are so activated that it's really difficult to get out of that survival state. That's okay. The important thing is the effort, because the effort, when you're changing your focus for that certain period of time, you're using a certain neural pathway or a neural network, which is a bunch of neural pathways. So You might be thinking to yourself, all right, Paul, but if I don't do visualizations, some people call them rounds, but if I don't do visualizations, then what can I do? Anything else that will change your focus for a certain period of time and efforting or trying to get into a different state. So there are many times I tend to do most of my visualizations in the morning and then evening because during the day I'm just super busy. But it doesn't mean throughout the day I don't take breaks and I'll do, okay, I'm going to do a 3-minute visualization. I'm at the beach. I'm sipping a pina colada and this beautiful wave. Okay, I'm getting carried away. So my whole point of this video is you don't have to do visualizations in order to get your nervous system out of this fight or flight or freeze or fawn or whatever blended state you may be in. You don't have to. So if anyone ever tells you, whether it's somebody who's already recovered, if someone recovered using lots of visualizations, they're probably going to have that inherent bias. Yes, I think you should do visualizations. It healed me, it helped me heal. And I think if you don't do them, you probably won't heal. And it's coming from a good place. They're not trying to be mean or anything. And I really understand that reasoning. However, it is not true. So, if visualizations are really difficult for you, because sometimes, for depending on the person's symptomology, depends on really where their brain state is at, visualization may not be available to them. It just might not be. So, what do? You want to do something that's going to change your focus for a certain period of time and you're going to try to change your state. So for some people, that could be prayer. And when I say prayer, like really getting into it, like really trying to feel connection to whatever higher power you have. For some people, it's music. I have a client who basically put on these headphones and she listened to music most of the day. But that's what worked for her. She was able to really get into the music. It helped her with the intrusive thoughts that she was getting. And so you may be thinking, that's great, Paul, but music is not in my training zone right now. It's not in my window of tolerance. Just a fancy way of saying that I'm not able to listen to music right now. So what can you do? What I really encourage people to do is make a list, take out a piece of paper or take out your phone and open the notes and just make a list of things that you can do, preferably things that you enjoy, hobbies. This is a great opportunity to rewire your brain also by learning something new. So, learning a new language. What really helps you change your state? For some people, it's drawing. Some people, it's painting. Some people, it's watercoloring. Some people, it's writing a poem, writing a short story, writing that novel they've always wanted to write. Maybe they're only able to write for 5 minutes a day. That's okay. The important thing is you start somewhere. For some people, it's doing a puzzle, playing Monopoly, calling a friend and really connecting with them and really focusing on maybe the state change that brings. So you make a list of things you enjoy, hobbies, musical instruments, anything. Now, some people their nervous systems are in a high state of dysregulation. And so a lot of these things aren't available to them. And so a very common question I get asked, Paul, because there was a time for several years I couldn't watch television, I couldn't listen to music, I couldn't get out of bed, I was bedbound, I could barely talk, I could barely think. So I made my list. What can I do? What do I enjoy doing? And I came up with some very interesting things. I enjoyed hugging my teddy bear named Bruno. So I held on to him a lot. I really enjoyed the plants that my mom brought into my room. So I would try connecting with them by, speaking of plant, I just got one back here. See this little guy? It's a money tree. And I just got him yesterday. So, And so I made a list of what I could do. I can think, barely, but I can think. I can talk to myself. I can put my arms around myself and give myself a hug. Do this. I could put my hands on my chest like this and do a little butterfly. And so I made a list of things I enjoyed. I also made a list of things that brought me comfort: a weighted blanket, a regular blanket, an electric blanket, a stuffed animal, a plant, a board game, a card game, anything that really would get my mind focused on something else other than my symptoms. Now, I had lots of symptoms back then. Many of them were 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's no way I could ignore them. And you'll never hear me say in any of my videos, you got to ignore your symptoms. No, you can't ignore them. You can't ignore them. And so the distinction I'm trying to make here, though, is you're not going to ignore them. They're there. However, you want to retrain your mind to focus on something else. Yes, the symptom is there, but I'm going to listen to a song right now, or I'm going to do a yoga nidra meditation. There's plenty of them on the Insight Timer app, which is free. If you don't have that, I highly recommend downloading the Inside Timer app. There's so many wonderful songs, meditations. Yes, some of them you have to pay for, but there's tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of free ones. YouTube as well. There's plenty of meditations and binaural beats you can listen to. And so find things that bring you comfort. I have a friend of mine in the brainwiring community. She really liked holding on to a bar of lavender soap, and she would smell it. And she goes, "Do you think that's weird, Paul?" No, not at all. Does it bring you comfort? Then do it. Even if it's might seem a little strange. I think I was 48 years old when my mom gave me a teddy bear named Bruno. And I looked at her, "Mom, I'm a 48-year-old man. Why would you give me a teddy bear?" She just looked at me and said, "Trust me, you're going to need him." And my mom was right, because I held on to that teddy bear Bruno for dear life sometimes. So make a list of things you enjoy, make a list of things that bring you comfort. And if they're not available to you right now, that sucks. I'm sorry, but they will be later on down the line. So I wrote down as much as I could, and then if something new came up, I kept that list, because that list was a lifesaver, because there were times where I was not able to access my prefrontal cortex, which is the kind of logic and reasoning of my brain, of this little puppy right here. And I'm like, gosh, I don't remember what things were on my list. And then I would grab my list and, oh, there it is. So what if you can only come up with one thing? That's okay. Some people, that's where they start. The important thing is you start implementing that one thing or two things, and you just do it every day for as long as you can, or whatever feels right to you. I really hesitate to say you got to do an hour of this a day or 2 hours of this a day, because there's so many different people that listen. They're going to watch this video, and they're all at different stages of their healing journey. So I really hesitate to say for how long, because if 1 minute is all you have, then you do 1 minute, and then maybe an hour later you do another minute. It really depends on where your nervous system and your brain state is at for that day. So I just want to make it clear, you do not have to do an hour of visualizations in order to help your body get out of a survival state. Plenty of people have healed without doing it. And I know a lot of people come to me like, gosh, I feel like I'm slacking because I only did one visualization today. And my question is usually, okay, that's not a problem. What else have you done then? Something that's going to change your focus for a certain length of time, and what's going to change your state. And if the state doesn't change, that's okay. It's the effort that counts, because you're doing several things. Number one, you're using that neural pathway. And secondly, you're interrupting a pattern that your brain is running. And your brain, if it's anything like mine, my brain was running survival 24/7. Paul's in danger. Paul's in danger. Paul, you didn't do this right. Paul, you're not doing your program right. Oh, Paul, what about this? What about that? And it just starts ruminating on things like, hold on, brain. One of the fundamentals of brain retraining is to change one's focus. My brain's going in 100 different directions. I am aware of this. So, you know, I'm going to go look at my plant. I'm going to focus on the color, the shape, the texture, and I might even touch it and give it a name like Snuffleupagus. Hey, Snuffleupagus. I don't know. I talk to my plant a lot because it brings me comfort. Find things that you enjoy, ideally, things that bring you comfort. It doesn't have to be this fancy the latest somatic exercise that came out in the year 2025. It doesn't have to be that. It could be really as simple as something that brings you comfort, something that you enjoy, because ideally those things are going to change your focus and it's going to help change your state. If it doesn't change your state, then by doing it over and over again, every day, eventually those neural pathways are going to get strong enough and your state will start to change. There was a time, I don't even know for how many months, I would do certain tools, whether it was a visualization or watching funny videos, and I was literally just kind of deadpan. I'm like, I'm not feeling that thing. And I would complain to the brain retrainers in the community, like, nothing's happening. And the ones that had been doing it for years would say, hey, don't worry, Paul, totally normal. Uh, it will come. I'm like, are you sure? They're like, just keep going, just keep doing it. And they were right. I literally thought I would never get to a day where I could just laugh spontaneously or feel just super grateful for just waking up my bed. Those are all the seeds that I planted from using my tools, doing things that I enjoyed, things that brought me comfort. And you may be thinking, I do get people go, what if you're bedbound? Well, what if you're bedbound? Okay, when I was bedbound, I would get a notebook and I would write poetry because it made me feel good. It brought me comfort. And sometimes I could only write for 1 or 2 minutes at a time. And then I would set down the notebook and I would just rest. And then maybe an hour or two later, I would pick up the notebook and write some more. Starting small, those little micro tools, micro moments. It may not feel like it's doing anything, but all those little micro things that you do throughout the day, I promise you, they add up. And as your brain and your nervous system starts to build capacity, and it will, you're going to start to be able to do more and more things. And something that's not uncommon is sometimes you'll be making progress. Oh my gosh, I could do more. And all of a sudden, boom, you feel like you have a setback. Like I took 2 steps forward and I'm taking 1 step back. It's totally normal. There's different theories as to why that is. People refer to that as an ebb and flow. Some people also opine that sometimes the nervous system just needs to recalibrate. Maybe the nervous system is releasing something. Maybe it's some old survival energy. Who knows? Maybe you got some bad news on the phone. You got a text message that you didn't like. That sends a signal of danger to the nervous system, back to the brain. Okay, we're going to go on this old protective neural pathway. And so don't look too much into that. It's normal. Um, People call those setbacks. Setbacks, I don't really see them as setbacks anymore. To me, it's part of the healing journey. And so just remember, I tend to repeat myself a lot, I know, but I tend to repeat things that I feel are very important. You do not have to do an hour of visualizations in order to recover. You don't even have to do visualizations. I know some people are going to disagree with me, but I know plenty of people who have recovered without doing a single visualization. For the reasons I have already mentioned, they were able to change their focus for a certain period of time, and they were able to change their state. I hope that was very helpful to you, and see you in the next video.